Emily sat at the small kitchen table in her cramped apartment, the smell of stale takeout lingering in the air. The table was littered with overdue bills, their ominous red ink reminding her of the days slipping away. Each envelope felt like a weight on her chest, a reminder that the clock was ticking and her bank account was dwindling. She glanced around the room. The peeling wallpaper and flickering light bulb were just as worn out as she felt. Her son, Jake, with his tousled brown hair and earnest blue eyes, burst into the room, his energy a stark contrast to the gloom that permeated the space. "Mom, can we go to the park today? I want to swing," he said, his voice filled with innocent excitement. Emily's heart sank at the request. "Oh, honey, I don't think we can today. It's too hot outside," she replied, her voice betraying the internal struggle raging within her. She wanted nothing more than to take him out, to see him smile as he flew through the air on the swings. But the reality of their situation gripped her. The rent was due, and there were fewer tips than usual at the diner. Jake's face fell slightly, but he quickly masked his disappointment with a brave smile. "Can we at least get ice cream later?" he asked, his hopeful tone tugging at her heartstrings. "Maybe next time, sweetheart," she said, forcing a smile in return. "How about we make some cookies instead? We have some chocolate chips left." She hoped the distraction would keep his spirits up, even if it meant more sugar and fewer healthy snacks. "Okay," Jake exclaimed, his enthusiasm returning as he hopped off the chair. Emily watched him leave the room, her heart aching. She felt like a failure. Every day was a battle, not just against her financial burdens, but against her own feelings of inadequacy as a mother. She wanted to provide for him, to give him a life that sparkled with joy and adventure, not one overshadowed by desperation and worry. As she began gathering the ingredients for the cookies, the weight of the bills loomed in her mind. She couldn't shake the thought of how close they were to losing everything. Each passing day felt like a step closer to the edge, and she was running out of options. Later that evening, Emily slipped in her uniform for her shift at the diner, the fabric worn but familiar. The diner was a refuge, a place where she could escape her worries, if only for a few hours. As she walked through the door, the clatter of dishes and the chatter of customers filled her with a sense of purpose. She maneuvered through the tables, taking orders and serving food with a smile, even when her heart wasn't in it. It was a long shift, and her feet ached by the end of it. She was wiping down a table when she overheard two men at the booth behind her discussing a local businessman known for his lavish lifestyle. "Marcus Sinclair, right? I heard he just threw a party at his mansion that cost more than my yearly salary." One of them chuckled, a hint of envy in his voice. "Yeah, they say he's into some shady stuff too," the other replied. "But the money he throws around, it's unbelievable. I mean, he could probably buy his way into anything." Emily couldn't help but lean in slightly, intrigued. She'd heard whispers about Marcus before, a name that floated around the edges of her world, but never crossed into her reality. The thought of someone so wealthy, with such influence, sparked a flicker of curiosity within her. "What do you think he'd pay for a night out?" the first man mused, laughter mingling with genuine curiosity. The question hung in the air, and Emily's heart raced at the implications. Could there really be a way out of her financial troubles? She shook her head, trying to dismiss the thought that flared in her mind. She had always prided herself on her independence, but desperation has a way of clouding judgment. As her shift wore on, The idea of Marcus and the wealth he represented gnawed at her. She couldn't help but wonder if there was a way to turn her situation around, to find a glimmer of hope in the darkness that loomed over her life. After a long night of serving, Emily finally clocked out, exhaustion pulling at her limbs. She trudged home, her mind still racing with the conversation she had overheard. Could she really go through with something so unconventional? The thought felt foreign, but the more she considered it, the more it began to take root in her mind. When she arrived home, the small apartment was dark, save for the glow of Jake's nightlight. He was already asleep, his small form curled up in bed, peaceful and unaware of the turmoil surrounding them. As Emily tucked him in, she felt a pang of guilt wash over her. Every decision she made was for him. But what if this one could change everything? Later that night, as she lay in bed, the weight of her choices pressed heavily upon her chest. She reached for her phone, hesitating as she opened her messages. A ping from a friend caught her attention, a casual conversation that suddenly felt significant. It was a message about an unconventional opportunity, a wealthy man seeking companionship for the night. Torn between desire and fear, Emily sat up, her heart pounding. This wasn't like her. She had always been fiercely independent, but the thought of the money she could earn was intoxicating. It could mean stability for Jake, a chance to pay off bills, maybe even a trip to the park they both so desperately wanted. But at what cost? What would you do? Emily whispered to herself, her voice barely breaking the silence. The room felt oppressive as she weighed her options. The prospect of a night with a stranger felt both thrilling and terrifying. She could feel the pull of desperation tugging at her resolve, urging her to take that leap into the unknown. With a deep breath, she typed a response, her fingers trembling over the screen. The decision felt monumental, the kind that could change everything. As she hit send, she closed her eyes, hoping that whatever came next would be worth the risk. Emily stood in front of the mirror, her heart racing as she adjusted her hair for what felt like the 100th time. The soft lighting of her cramped bathroom reflected a woman caught between desperation and hope. She wore a simple black dress that hugged her form, a stark contrast to the lavish, opulent world she was about to step into. As she applied a light touch of lipstick, she couldn't help but feel a pang of self-doubt gnawing at the edges of her mind. Was this really the path she wanted to take? Just a night, she whispered to herself, repeating the mantra like a lifeline. She had made the decision, albeit reluctantly. The thought of Jake's smiling face and the promise of a better life for him propelled her forward. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling of shame that crept in, reminding her of all the choices that had led her to this moment. With a deep breath, Emily stepped out of the bathroom and into the living room, where the soft glow of the television illuminated the space. Jake was sprawled on the couch, his small figure absorbed in a cartoon. She paused for a moment, taking in the sight of him, blissfully unaware of the weight of her choices. "Mommy, can we go to the park tomorrow?" he asked, his innocent blue eyes sparkling with excitement. "Sure, sweetheart. We'll go to the park," she replied, forcing a smile, even as her heart ached. She knew that the promise she made was contingent on the outcome of her evening. The thought of letting Jake down sent a shiver down her spine. As she leaned down to kiss his forehead, Jake pulled away slightly, studying her. "You look pretty, Mommy." "Thank you, Jake. You're the best." She ruffled his hair, her heart swelling with love. "I'll be back soon. You stay safe and watch your cartoons." "Okay." "Okay," he chirped, turning back to the screen, oblivious to the storm brewing inside her. The drive to the upscale hotel felt surreal. The city lights blurred as she navigated through the bustling streets, her mind racing with a mix of apprehension and anticipation. What would Marcus be like? Would he be as charming as the rumors suggested? Would she be able to maintain her composure in the face of such wealth? Arriving at the hotel, she parked and took a moment to collect herself. The building loomed large, a testament to opulence. She stepped out of her car and walked toward the entrance, her heels clicking on the marble floor, echoing her nervousness. As she entered the lobby, she was engulfed by the scent of expensive perfume and polished wood, the ambience exuding luxury. "Good evening, ma'am. How may I assist you?" The concierge greeted her, his tone smooth and professional. "I'm here to meet Mr. Marcus," she replied, forcing calmness in her voice. "Of course. He's expecting you. Please take the elevator to the penthouse suite." Emily nodded, her hands trembling slightly as she pressed the elevator button. The ride felt interminable, each ding of the floor numbers intensifying her anxiety. When the doors finally opened, she stepped into a lavish corridor, the plush carpeting swallowing her footsteps. Standing in front of the suite, she took a deep breath, her heart pounding in her chest. She raised her hand to knock, but hesitated, doubt creeping in once more. Would he see her as she wanted to be seen, or just another woman in desperate need of money? Before she could second-guess herself further, the door swung open, revealing Marcus. He was strikingly handsome, with an easy smile that lit up his face. His tailored suit hugged his broad shoulders perfectly, and as he stepped aside to let her in, she felt a mix of intrigue and apprehension. "Emily, right? I'm so glad you could make it," he said, his voice smooth like silk. "Hi," she replied, feeling slightly awkward. "Thank you for having me." The suite was breathtaking, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a stunning view of the city skyline. The lavish furnishings and ambient music created an atmosphere that felt both welcoming and intimidating. "Can I get you something to drink? Water, wine?" Marcus asked, moving toward a bar stocked with top-shelf liquor. "Just water, please," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. As he poured her a glass, they settled onto a plush couch, the tension in the air palpable. Emily could feel the weight of their circumstances pressing down on her. "So, tell me about yourself, Emily," Marcus said, his gaze steady and attentive. She hesitated, unsure of how much to reveal. "I'm a single mom, just trying to make ends meet," she began, her voice soft. "Jake is my world. I work as a waitress, and sometimes it gets really tough." Marcus nodded, his expression shifting to one of understanding. "I can't imagine how hard that must be. It takes a lot of strength to do what you're doing." "Strength has its limits," she replied, a bitter edge creeping into her tone. "But I do what I have to for him." The conversation flowed more easily than she expected, with Marcus sharing snippets of his life, his career, and his interests. The initial tension began to dissolve as they found common ground in their struggles. "I just went through a divorce," he admitted after a moment, his tone shifting slightly. "It's been challenging, to say the least. You'd think that with all the money in the world, happiness would come easy. But it's not that simple." Emily's heart softened as she listened to him. Beneath the wealth and charm, she recognized a man grappling with his own vulnerabilities. "I guess we all have our battles," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "True," he said, his eyes locking onto hers. "But we're here now, and I want this night to be enjoyable for both of us." As they continued to talk, Emily felt a sense of connection blossoming between them. The initial reservations she had were slowly fading away, replaced by a curiosity about the man seated across from her. His laughter was infectious, and for the first time in a long while, she felt a flicker of joy amidst the chaos of her life. "Tell me about Jake," Marcus prompted, leaning forward with genuine interest. "He's 7 and loves dinosaurs," she said, a smile breaking through her earlier tension. "He's always asking questions about how they lived and what they looked like. I sometimes think he'd be a paleontologist if he could." "That's amazing. You must be so proud," Marcus replied, his eyes twinkling. "It sounds like you're doing an incredible job raising him." "Thank you," she said, feeling warmth spread through her. "It's tough, but he keeps me going." As the night wore on, Emily found herself laughing more freely, sharing stories, and even allowing herself to forget the reasons that had brought her to this suite. They talked about dreams, aspirations, and the challenges of chasing them. But even in this moment of connection, a voice in the back of her mind reminded her of the transaction that lay beneath the surface of their encounter. Despite the warmth that was building, she couldn't shake the feeling of being trapped in a delicate balance between vulnerability and self-preservation. "What about you, Marcus? What do you dream of?" she asked, her voice softer now. He paused, his expression growing serious. "Honestly, I dream of finding someone who understands me, who can see beyond the money and the success. Someone who can share life's ups and downs with me." His honesty struck a chord within her, and for a fleeting moment, she allowed herself to believe in the possibility of something more profound than the transaction they were engaged in. As the evening unfolded, Emily felt the boundaries of their initial arrangement blur, the line between business and connection growing increasingly tenuous. She realized that perhaps, just perhaps, this night could lead to something beyond what she had anticipated. And yet, as she looked into Marcus's eyes, she knew that navigating these waters would require more than just courage. It would demand a reckoning with her own heart. The dim light of the hotel room cast a warm glow over the plush furnishings as Emily and Marcus sat across from each other, their initial awkwardness gradually dissolving into a comfortable silence. The night had unfolded in ways she hadn't anticipated, and as they shared stories, a connection began to blossom between them. "Tell me about Jake," Marcus prompted, leaning forward slightly, his interest genuine. The way he looked at her, with those deep, probing eyes, made her heart flutter in a way she hadn't expected. Emily hesitated for a moment, unsure of how much to reveal. "He's my whole world, you know? Being a single mom is challenging, but he's worth every struggle." She smiled softly, her thoughts drifting to her son's bright laughter and curious spirit. "I just want to give him a better life. One that's not filled with worry and bills." Marcus interjected, his tone empathetic. "I know that feeling. It seems like the more you work, the more they pile up, doesn't it?" "Yes," she sighed, feeling a sense of relief at his understanding. "I work long hours at the diner, and it's still not enough. I want him to have opportunities, sports, music lessons, everything I couldn't have growing up." Marcus nodded, his expression turning serious. "I can relate. I thought that money would solve my problems, you know? But it's lonely at the top. It's like everyone wants something from you. I can buy the best things in life, but I can't buy time or genuine connections." Emily felt a pang of sympathy for him. "You're not alone, Marcus. It must be hard, though, with your lifestyle. People probably see you as just a businessman." "Exactly," he replied, running a hand through his hair, a gesture that revealed his vulnerability. I'm just a guy with a lot of money, but I miss the simple things. I miss real conversations. I miss the feeling of being seen for who I am, not what I have." Their eyes locked, and for a moment, the weight of the world seemed to lift from both their shoulders. Emily could see the sincerity etched in his features, a stark contrast to the facade of wealth and charm he typically presented. It felt refreshing, like a breath of fresh air in a smog-filled city. Just as they seemed to be forging a deeper bond, Emily's phone buzzed violently against the luxurious table, breaking the spell of their moment. She glanced at the screen, her heart sinking as she read the message from her landlord. "Emily, I need the rent by tomorrow. If it's not paid, I'll have no choice but to start eviction proceedings." "Everything okay?" Marcus asked, noticing her sudden change in demeanor. The concern in his voice was palpable, and Emily felt the tears prickling at the corners of her eyes. "Not really," she admitted, her voice trembling. "It's just my landlord. He's threatening to evict us if I don't pay the rent by tomorrow. I'm already behind because of my shifts at work. I thought I could catch up, but it's like I'm drowning." "Emily," Marcus said softly, "I don't want you to feel this way. You deserve better." He reached across the table, his hand hovering just above hers, a silent offer of comfort. "I know," she whispered, feeling the weight of her reality pressing down on her. "But it's hard to see a way out. I don't want to drag Jake into this mess. He deserves a stable home." Marcus withdrew his hand, and Emily felt an unexpected loss. "What if I could help?" he offered cautiously, his eyes searching hers for a reaction. "I could give you the money you need. No strings attached. Just think about it." Emily's heart raced. "I can't just accept money from you like that. It feels wrong. I don't want to owe you anything." "I'm not trying to buy you, Emily," he insisted, his voice firm yet gentle. "I just want to help. I've been where you are, and I know how suffocating it can feel. If you're in a bind, I want to be there for you. It's not charity, it's support." She looked away, grappling with the conflicting emotions swirling inside her. On one hand, the idea of financial relief was intoxicating. On the other, accepting help from a man she barely knew felt like a betrayal of her independence. "I just don't know," she murmured, her thoughts racing. "It's complicated. Everything is complicated," Marcus replied, leaning back in his chair. "Life is messy, and it doesn't come with a manual. But sometimes we have to accept help when it's offered, especially when it comes from a place of genuine care." Emily's heart ached at his words. She wanted to believe him, to trust that his intentions were pure. But the fear of losing her autonomy clawed at her. "I just don't want to be seen as someone who can be bought," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. Marcus regarded her intently, a mixture of understanding and frustration in his expression. "You won't be. You're not a transaction to me. I see you, Emily. I see your strength and your struggles, and I want to help you rise above them." The sincerity in his tone resonated with her, and for the first time in a long while, Emily felt the walls around her heart begin to crack. Maybe this wasn't just about money. Maybe it was about human connection, something she had been missing for so long. After a long pause, she took a deep breath. "If I accept your help, it will be for Jake. I want to give him a better life. And if that means accepting your offer, then maybe I can do it." A smile broke across Marcus's face, but it was tempered with concern. "Just remember, this doesn't change who you are. You're still the same person, and I respect you for that." As she nodded slowly, Emily felt an unfamiliar combination of hope and anxiety. She was stepping into uncharted territory, but perhaps this was the beginning of something transformative, not just for her, but for both of them. The night stretched on, filled with conversation that felt less like a transaction and more like a shared journey. As they spoke about their dreams and fears, Emily realized that beneath the surface of their initial arrangement lay a profound connection that had the potential to change their lives in ways neither of them could yet comprehend. The morning sun filtered through the thin curtains of Emily's small apartment, casting a warm glow on the scattered toys and crumpled papers that occupied every corner. The remnants of her late-night thoughts lingered in her mind, and the weight of the money Marcus had sent her sat heavily in her stomach. She sat at the kitchen table, staring at the check she had deposited into her bank account just hours before. It was a substantial sum, enough to keep the landlord at bay for a while longer and to invest in Jake's education. Yet, guilt gnawed at her insides like a hungry animal. "Mom, can we go to the park today?" Jake's cheerful voice broke through her thoughts, pulling her back to the present. He was dressed in his favorite superhero t-shirt, his bright blue eyes sparkling with excitement. Emily forced a smile, trying to mask the turmoil within her. "Maybe later, sweetheart. I have some things to take care of first." Jake's face fell, but he quickly masked his disappointment with a hopeful grin. "Can we go after lunch? I want to show you my new trick on the swings." "Of course, we'll go after lunch," she promised, ruffling his hair affectionately. She couldn't let her issues cloud his childhood. The last thing she wanted was for him to sense her stress and worry. As Jake scampered off to his room, Emily took a deep breath. She had to make this money count. It wasn't just about survival. It was about building a future for Jake. She pictured his face lighting up with joy as she enrolled him in a better school, one that could offer him opportunities she never had. But how could she reconcile this newfound financial help from Marcus with the shame she felt about the circumstances that led her there? Later, as she sat at the dining table sorting through bills, her phone buzzed. The name on the screen made her heart skip a beat. "Marcus." She hesitated, her fingers hovering over the screen as she considered ignoring the call. But the allure of their last conversation, the warmth of their connection, urged her to answer. "Emily." His voice came through the line, smooth and warm, instantly easing the tension that had gripped her. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything." "No, just sorting things out," she replied, her tone cautious. "How are you?" "I'm well, just wrapping up a few things before the charity gala tonight. I wanted to invite you to join me. I think it would be a great opportunity for you to meet some people who can help with Jake's future," he said, his tone sincere and encouraging. "A gala," she echoed, feeling a mix of excitement and apprehension. "I don't know, Marcus. I'm not really the gala type." He chuckled softly. "That's why I want you there. You'll be a breath of fresh air. Plus, it's a chance to see a different world. I know it's intimidating, but you and Jake deserve to be a part of it." Emily bit her lip, considering the invitation. She could almost envision Jake in a small suit, his hair neatly combed, looking up at her with wide eyes, taking in the grandeur of a gala. "I'll think about it," she replied cautiously. "Think quickly. I would love to have you there, Emily. You won't regret it, I promise." Marcus encouraged, his voice inviting and warm. They exchanged a few more pleasantries before hanging up, and Emily felt a strange mix of elation and dread. As the day wore on, she wrestled with the decision. The thought of attending the gala excited her, yet also filled her with anxiety. She had never been part of that world, and the idea of stepping into it felt like walking into a lion's den. But for Jake, she would consider it. After lunch, she took Jake to the park, where he gleefully showed off his swing tricks, soaring higher and higher with each push. Emily watched him with a mixture of pride and sadness, her heart aching at the thought of his potential being stifled by their current circumstances. She wanted to give him the world, but how could she do that? "Mom, watch me," Jake yelled, his laughter echoing through the park. "Great job, buddy," she cheered, clapping her hands. In that moment, as she watched him revel in the simple joy of swinging, she realized that attending the gala could offer them both a chance at something more. After their day at the park, Emily returned home and began rummaging through her closet, searching for something suitable to wear. She found an old dress, one she hadn't worn in years, and tried it on. It was snug, but reminded her of a time when she felt more confident. As she stared at her reflection, she took a deep breath, trying to quell the nerves bubbling within her. The night of the gala arrived, and Emily stood in front of the mirror, her heart racing. She had done her best to spruce up, her hair neatly pulled back, and a touch of makeup enhancing her features. She felt like a stranger in her own skin, but she was determined to step out of her comfort zone for Jake. When she arrived at the venue, the grandeur of the place took her breath away. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting a shimmering light over elegantly dressed guests mingling and laughing. The atmosphere buzzed with excitement, and Emily felt a pang of nerves wash over her. As she stepped inside, she spotted Marcus across the room. He was dressed in a tailored suit, his presence commanding attention as he conversed with a group of well-dressed individuals. The confidence he exuded was magnetic, and she felt a flutter of anxiety mixed with anticipation. "Emily," Marcus called out, his eyes lighting up when he saw her. He quickly made his way through the crowd, and she couldn't help but feel a thrill at his enthusiasm. "You made it. Thank you for inviting me," she said, her voice slightly shaky as he pulled her into a gentle embrace. The warmth of his body against hers was comforting, and for a brief moment, she felt a sense of belonging she hadn't experienced in a long time. "You look incredible," he complimented, taking a step back to admire her. Emily felt a blush creep up her cheeks. "Come on, let me introduce you to some people." As they navigated through the crowd, Emily was introduced to numerous guests, each more glamorous than the last. She felt out of place, but Marcus stayed by her side, making her feel less like an outsider. They chatted and laughed, and for the first time in a long time, Emily felt a spark of joy. But as the night unfolded, she noticed something that sent a wave of unease through her. Across the room, she spotted a woman with striking features, long, flowing hair, and an elegant gown. There was something about her that felt eerily familiar, and as Emily watched, the woman leaned into Marcus, whispering something in his ear. A knot tightened in Emily's stomach. She squinted, trying to get a better look, her heart racing as she recognized the woman. She looked so much like her, so much so that it was almost unsettling. The realization hit her like a punch in the gut. Was this woman part of Marcus's life in a way she hadn't understood? "Emily." Marcus's voice pulled her back to reality, and she forced a smile as he turned to her. "Are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine. Just a little overwhelmed," she lied, glancing back at the woman, who was now laughing at something Marcus had said. "Let's get some fresh air," he suggested, sensing her discomfort. As they stepped outside, the cool night air enveloped them, providing a momentary reprieve from the chaos of the gala. Emily took a deep breath, trying to steady her racing heart. "Are you sure you're all right?" Marcus asked, concern etched on his handsome features. I saw that woman inside," Emily confessed, her voice quiet. "The one you were talking to. She looks just like me." Marcus's expression shifted, confusion flickering in his eyes. "That's my ex-wife, Sarah. We've been divorced for a while now, but we still share mutual friends." The words hung heavily in the air, and Emily felt a wave of betrayal wash over her. Did he still have feelings for her? Was this all some elaborate game? "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked, her voice trembling. Marcus sighed, running a hand through his hair, frustration evident in his demeanor. I didn't want to complicate things. I genuinely want to get to know you, Emily, and I thought it best to leave the past behind. The night felt like it was closing in around her, and she struggled to process everything. You should have been honest with me. I'm not just some fling to help you forget your past. I never considered you just a fling, he replied, his voice earnest. I like you, Emily. I'm drawn to you for who you are today, not who I was with before. But as the words hung in the air, Emily felt a chasm opening between them. She had entered this world seeking help and perhaps even solace, but now it was tainted by shadows of a past she had no part in. The realization that she was yet another woman in a line of broken connections made her heart sink. I need some time to think, she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper, before turning to walk back inside. As she re-entered the gala, the laughter and chatter felt distant, and the weight of uncertainty loomed over her like a dark cloud. She had stepped into this. Emily stood at the edge of the gala, her heart racing as she spotted Marcus across the room. The opulent chandeliers bathed the space in a golden hue, but the warmth of the atmosphere felt miles away from her chest, which tightened with a mix of betrayal and confusion. He was talking to a woman who bore an uncanny resemblance to her. Dark hair, cascading in waves down her shoulders, a similar bone structure, and an elegant silhouette that seemed all too familiar. As she approached, her mind whirled with questions. Was this truly just a chance encounter, or was there more to their connection than she had initially thought? Emily's instinct screamed at her to confront him, to demand answers, but the polished veneer of the gala held her back, if only for a moment. "Marcus," she called out, her voice firm despite the tremors beneath. He turned, surprise flickering across his handsome features, quickly replaced by a wary smile. "Emily, I didn't expect to see you here." His tone was light, but she could see the tension in his posture as he glanced at the woman beside him. "Who is she?" Emily asked, her voice steadier than she felt. "This is," he began, but the woman interjected smoothly. "I'm Lisa, Marcus's ex-wife," she said, extending a hand. Emily hesitated, then shook it, feeling the chill of the woman's grip. "Ex-wife. I see," Emily replied, forcing a calmness she didn't feel. The revelation hit her like a slap. The connection she thought they had, the warmth of their conversations, it all suddenly felt tainted. "Emily, let me explain," Marcus said, stepping closer, his eyes earnest. "I didn't know she would be here tonight. We've been separated for a while now, but things are complicated." Complicated? You didn't mention that you were still entangled with her," Emily interrupted, her voice rising. "How am I supposed to believe anything you say now? Was this all just a game to you?" "Of course not. I was drawn to you, Emily. Yes, I wanted to help you, but it was because I believed in you. I thought we had something real," he insisted, his voice desperate. "But did you? Or was I just a distraction from your past?" She stepped back, crossing her arms over her chest, feeling vulnerable and exposed. "I thought you understood my struggles, my life. But now I see you have your own baggage." Marcus's brow furrowed, frustration and hurt mingling in his expression. "You don't understand. I didn't want to bring my past into our present. I wanted a chance to start fresh, to be with someone who sees me for who I am now, not just the man I used to be. Yet here you are, surrounded by the remnants of that past," Emily retorted, the sting of his words cutting deeper than she intended. "How can I trust you when you've hidden so much?" Lisa, standing quietly, observed the exchange. She could sense the tension crackling between them, and chose to step back, sensing that this was a conversation better suited for just the two of them. "I'll give you both a moment," she said softly, slipping away into the crowd. Look, I get it. You have every right to feel betrayed, Marcus said, his tone shifting to one of vulnerability. But the money I gave you, it wasn't a manipulation. It was a way to help you break free from your circumstances. I never meant to deceive you. Emily felt a wave of conflicting emotions wash over her. His sincerity, the way he looked at her now, stirred something deep within her. But the betrayal still loomed large. Help or control? She asked bitterly, her heart racing. How can I believe that your intentions were pure when everything about this feels tainted? I wasn't trying to control you, Emily. I wanted to offer you a lifeline, he pleaded, a hint of desperation creeping into his voice. I thought if I could help you financially, you would have the freedom to pursue your dreams, to be the mother you want to be for Jake. By giving me money, by coming into my life like some kind of savior. She shook her head, her voice rising again. That's not how it works. I need to be able to stand on my own 2 feet. I don't want to owe anyone anything, especially not someone who hides their past. Then let me show you that I'm different. I'm here for you, not just as a benefactor, but as a person who genuinely cares, he insisted, stepping closer. I don't expect anything in return. I just want the chance to prove that what we have is real. Emily took a step back, shaking her head as she fought to suppress the rush of emotions. I don't know if I can do this, Marcus. I don't know if I can trust you. Trust is earned, I understand that. But I need you to know that I'm here, willing to earn it, he said, his voice low and earnest. The last thing I want is to complicate your life further. I just want to be part of it, if you'll let me. Silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken words and unresolved feelings. Emily looked away, her eyes scanning the room filled with laughter and clinking glasses. She felt as if she were standing on a precipice, staring into the unknown. I need space, she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. I need to figure things out on my own. Emily, please. No, she interrupted, raising her hand. I can't do this right now. With that, she turned on her heel and walked away from him, her heart pounding in her chest. She could feel his eyes on her, a weight that pressed against her back, but she didn't turn around. Instead, she focused on the exit, the cool night air beckoning her to freedom. As she stepped outside, the cacophony of the gala faded behind her, replaced by a stillness that enveloped her like a comforting blanket. The cool breeze brushed against her skin, and for a moment, she felt a sense of clarity. Emily took a deep breath, her mind racing. She thought of Jake, of the life she wanted to build for him, free from the entanglements of wealth and the complexities of relationships that felt more like transactions than connections. She didn't want to fall into the same traps that had ensnared her before. With newfound determination, she resolved to distance herself from Marcus, to reclaim her independence. The thought of working extra shifts, of pouring her energy into providing for Jake filled her with a sense of purpose. She would work hard, not just for him, but for herself, to ensure that she could stand tall on her own. As she walked towards her car, her heart still ached with the weight of the night, but the feeling of empowerment began to drown out the confusion. She was stronger than she had ever given herself credit for. She would not let anyone define her worth. With each step away from the gala, she felt the chains of doubt and dependency begin to break, and the road ahead, though uncertain, felt like one she was finally ready to travel alone. Emily had been working tirelessly to rebuild her life since her brief encounter with Marcus. The nights were long, filled with the hum of her thoughts, echoing the decisions she had made. Her resolve to provide a better life for Jake fortified her spirit, pushing her to pick up extra shifts and even consider other opportunities for income. However, as she worked, A troubling realization began to crystallize. Marcus's connections in the upper echelons of society were not merely wealthy patrons. They were part of a network that preyed on vulnerable women in the community. One evening, as Emily sorted through her notes from a community meeting, a name kept surfacing. One of Marcus's associates, a man known for his charm, but also for his questionable business practices. The more she dug, the more she found whispers of exploitation tied to his name. Her heart raced as she uncovered a trail of deceit, leading to various women who had suffered under the guise of business opportunities. The anger bubbled within her, fueled by her own experiences and the desperation of those who had been trapped in similar circumstances. She knew she had to act. With every piece of evidence she collected, a fire ignited in her, a fierce determination to expose the truth, not just for herself but for all those who had been silenced. She had seen what Marcus was capable of, and it was time to confront him, not as a desperate woman seeking help, but as a warrior fighting for justice. The day of the confrontation arrived, and Emily stood outside the sleek office building where Marcus often held meetings. The air was crisp, and as she wrapped her arms around herself, she felt a mixture of trepidation and resolve. She marched inside, her heart pounding with each step as she made her way to his office. The receptionist greeted her with a surprised smile, clearly not expecting Emily to show up unannounced. "Mr. Thompson is in a meeting," she said, eyeing Emily curiously. "I need to speak with him." "It's urgent," Emily insisted, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside her. After a brief hesitation, the receptionist nodded and buzzed Marcus's office. "Mr. Thompson, there's someone here to see you," she said, her tone almost apologetic. "Send her in," came Marcus's voice, confident and commanding. Emily stepped into the office, and the sight of him sent a wave of nostalgia through her. He was seated at his desk, looking as polished and composed as ever, but she could see the flicker of surprise in his eyes as he took in her determined expression. "Emily," he said, standing up, "what a pleasant surprise. I didn't expect to see you here. Is everything all right?" "Everything is far from all right, Marcus," she replied, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "I've discovered something about your associates, something that you need to hear." He frowned, concern etched on his face. "What are you talking about?" Taking a deep breath, she launched into her revelations, presenting the evidence she had gathered with unwavering conviction. "I know about the women. I know what they've been going through, and I know they're not the only ones. You've been surrounding yourself with people who exploit vulnerability for profit." Marcus's expression shifted from concern to disbelief. "Emily, you have to understand." "No, you have to listen," she interrupted, her voice rising with passion. "This isn't about your wealth or your status. This is about real lives, real people who are suffering because of the choices you've turned a blind eye to." He hesitated, the weight of her words sinking in. "I had no idea." "Exactly," she cut in. "You didn't want to see it, did you? It's easier to ignore the pain when it doesn't affect you directly. But it's time for you to wake up, Marcus. You need to take responsibility." The silence that followed was heavy, filled with the tension of unspoken truths. Finally, Marcus ran a hand through his hair, looking genuinely conflicted. "What do you want me to do?" "I want you to confront this. I want you to cut ties with these people. You have the power to make a difference. You can stop this." He stared at her, his blue eyes searching hers for answers. "I can't just walk away from years of business relationships. It's complicated." "Complicated or not, it's the right thing to do," Emily pressed, her heart racing as she sensed a crack in his armor. "You have to choose integrity over profit. For once, Think about the impact your actions have on others. After a moment of contemplation, Marcus nodded slowly, the resolve in his expression hardening. You're right. I need to make this right. With that, the tension shifted, and Emily felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps, just perhaps, Marcus could be the ally she needed in this fight. But first, they had to confront the beast that had festered in the shadows for too long. The next day, they stood together before a group of law enforcement officials, armed with the evidence Emily had gathered. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation as they prepared to expose the corrupt dealings that had plagued their community. Emily felt a surge of strength as she introduced herself, her voice strong and unwavering. Thank you for gathering here today, she began, glancing at Marcus beside her, who offered her a supportive nod. I stand before you not just as a survivor, but as an advocate for those who can't speak for themselves. Together, we will unveil the exploitation that has been allowed to persist for far too long. As she detailed the findings, Marcus provided crucial insight into the business operations that had allowed these wrongdoings to continue unchecked. It was a powerful moment, a turning point where the line between them, as mere acquaintances, blurred into something more profound, a shared mission to right the wrongs of their past. The meeting concluded with the promise of investigations and a commitment to protect the vulnerable in their community. As they left the building, Emily felt a weight lift from her shoulders, knowing that they had taken the first step toward justice. In the weeks that followed, Emily transformed her pain into purpose. She began organizing workshops for women, educating them on their rights and resources available to them. Marcus, now a staunch ally, uses connections to help fund these initiatives, ensuring that the voices of the vulnerable would be heard. One evening, as they wrapped up a successful event, Emily and Marcus stood outside, the sun setting behind them. The glow of the twilight seemed to mirror the warmth growing between them, a bond forged through adversity and shared values. You've changed so much, Marcus said, his voice low but filled with admiration. I've never seen someone fight so fiercely for others. Emily smiled, the pride swelling within her. I've learned that true wealth isn't about money or status. It's about the connections we make and the lives we touch. As they stood there, side by side, a sense of hope filled the air. Emily had risen from her struggles, not just for herself, but for others who had walked the same path. And with Marcus by her side, they were determined to create a future where vulnerability was met with compassion, not exploitation. In that moment, Emily felt a genuine smile break across her face as she watched Jake playing with other children at the community center. The laughter echoed around her, a symphony of resilience and joy. She had found her purpose, and as she looked at Marcus, she realized that they were writing a new chapter together, one built on respect, integrity, and the shared belief that they could make a difference. As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Emily knew that the journey ahead would be challenging, but she was ready. She had discovered her strength, her voice, and her worth. And in that, she had found a new kind of wealth, one that would last a lifetime.